Tommy, it was in, I think around 1956, when I went to Houston and met with Biff Colley, who was a popular country music disc jockey there.
Right.
Biff told me about you. I think you had a program in KNUZ, was it?
Right.
And he said that you had made a couple of records for RCA Victor, and the records didn't do very well, and so Victor dropped you from the label.
Right.
And that you weren't feeling too happy. And he thought if I went over and spoke with you, I might be able to cheer you up, get you out of the depression. So I went over and met you, and I listened to your records. And I said, well, Tommy, these songs are just not for you. They're not right for you. But I heard something in your voice that I thought was outstanding. And I think I cheered you a little bit, and we went out for a couple of hamburgers. You had an old Ford.
Right.
And then I said to you, I said, well, Tommy, when you get to be 18 years old, you come to me and I'll sign you to a Capitol record contract.
Right.
So I think, I don't know if you felt better or not when I said that, or whether you thought I was kidding you, but anyway, in 1956, you moved to Hollywood, and you were on Cliffy Stone's TV show,
Right.
Hometown Jamboree.
Right.
And you had told Cliffy that I had promised to sign you when you were 18 years old, when your voice was mature and so on and so forth. And Cliffy brought you over to my office and said, Ken, you promised to sign Tommy when he was 18 years old. Well, I was kind of taken aback a little bit, but I said, well, a promise is a promise, so I signed you. Well, our first session was in January of 1957.
Right.
And the first song we recorded was Teenage Crush.
Right.
And anyway, in the interim, you had been chosen for the leading part of a the Craft Hour TV show.
Right.
And they originally wanted Elvis Presley.
Right.
But Colonel Tom Parker didn't want Elvis to do the show. But he had, I think, managed you at one time.
Yes, when I was a little boy.
Oh, you mean you were a little boy once? Anyway, Tom recommended you, and you got the part. Well, the producer of the show sent me a song that he said if I recorded it, he would use it on the show. And I listened to the song, and it just wasn't for you. I said, no, this song isn't right for Tommy. And I sent him a dub of Teenage Crush. And I said, this is the first record that I'm going to release on Tommy SANDS. So I was quite thrilled, because in watching the show, they had used the theme of Teenage Crush all through the film.
Right.
And your performance was really outstanding.
Thank you, Ken.
And I think because of that show, you became a teenage idol. Well, anyway,
The show was called The Singing Idol.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the singing idol.
Right.
And it really did great. I mean, it was well received, and you were so good on the show, and I was so thrilled. I really was, because I didn't expect, that they would use that theme all through the show. Well, a couple of days later, the producer of the show called me and thanked me for sending him the song. Yeah, really, it was just wonderful that he did that. Well, that same year, you appeared on Ralph Edwards' "This Is Your Life."
Right.
And on the show were Tennessee Ernie, Ralph Edwards, and me presenting you with your gold record for the sale of 1 million records of Teenage Crush. Teenage Crush, incidentally, reached number 2 on the pop charts, and I think from then on your career was assured.
Thank you so much, Ken, for living up to your word and signing me when you said you would.
Well, no, I felt you had talent. In fact, I just felt that you had it, and you obviously did. So there we are.
Well, you picked the right song, because within 1 week of the time that The Singing Idol came out, Teenage Crush went over 1 million. In 1 week, it was just unbelievable.
Well, it's because of your performance, and it was a good song.
It was a good song.
Yeah, and I was, and your career just went right up. So it's wonderful.
And thanks to you, Ken.
Oh, well.
Thanks to you.
It's like I said when I was inducted in the Hall of Fame. I was appreciative of the induction, but it was the artists, the musicians, the songwriters, and the recording engineers
That's right.
who were responsible for my success. Well, it's true.
That's true. Do you remember John Karsh?
John Krause, you mean?
John Crouch, who was our first engineer.
Oh, yes.
He was the engineer on Teenage Crush.
He was so great.
He was so great.
Yeah.
John Crouch.
Yeah, John passed away a few years ago. In fact,
Yeah, I'm
quite
sorry
a few
to
years
hear
ago.
that.
Yeah. And then from then on, I used mostly Hugh Davies, who also was a great mixer.
Remember when we went up to Las Vegas and excuse me, Ken, we did SANDS at the SANDS?
Yes.
Who was it that you brought up there to engineer that session? Was that Hugh Davies?
Yes, I think.
It was
oh,
Hugh
yes,
Davies.
it was Hugh.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, he was the only engineer that, I used mostly. John Palladino was the first engineer that I ever used. He was a great engineer. Of course, that was when I first went to Capitol. I was in the transcription department, and of course, transcriptions. Do you know what transcriptions are?
No, I don't, Ken.
Well, they're 16-inch discs, and there were 5 selections on each side, and they were rented out to the radio stations, and we provided scripts. We had programs, and provided scripts for every month for different programs, and of course, what the thing of it was, the transcriptions, the radio stations paid for the use of the transcriptions. I can't remember how much it was a month, but I think something like $200 a month. Well, what happened was Capitol Records we had a group on transcriptions called Pee Wee Hunt. It was a Dixieland band, and he had a song called 12th Street Rag. And the stations played that. When they played that, the demand for a record became enormous. So Capitol realized, hey, wait a minute, radio stations can do something for the sale of records. So they started to send out free records to radio stations. And the radio stations said, hey, wait a minute, why should we pay $200 a month for music when they're sending us records free? And transcriptions went out of business. Yep. So that was the story.
So that's what a transcription is.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah. The 16-inch sticks, huge.
Uh-huh.
I would say they were kind of the forerunner of albums.
Of long-playing albums, huh?
Well, no. Albums used to have about 5 or 6 records in them.
They would have 6 on each side, right?
Well,
6 songs on each side of the album.
transcriptions.
Uh-huh.
And then when albums came out, they had 6 records in the album and 2 songs and a song on each side.
I see.
So there were 12 songs in the album.
In the album. Uh-huh.
And then of course 45 records came out. Of course, originally they were 78s, and then 45s came out. And then of course CDs came out. The whole business has changed.
And now you've got DVDs and VHSs and everything.
But life goes on.
Life goes on. And you certainly have adapted well, Ken. You've adapted well all through the years and the many different changes that you must have seen during your lifetime.
Oh, well, when my book comes out, you will see the beginning of my life, how it started and how it, I stopped writing. My book is called My First 90 Years Plus 3. And the reason I stopped writing at 93 was because all I could write about was the death of my dear friends and relatives, and I said, the heck with it. You know? So I stopped writing.
Yeah. Ken, here we have that record we've been talking about.
Oh, Sands of the Sands.
Sands of the Sands.
Yeah.
Yep. And then on the other side there it says, produced by Ken Nelson, down at the bottom.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah, that was a great album. Of course, I recorded over 200 artists.
Good Lord. How many albums do you, how many records do you think you recorded in your career,
Oh,
Ken?
golly, I don't know. Thousands.
Thousands, huh?
Yeah.
And how many chart records do you think you had?
Oh, I don't know. I probably a few hundred. I wonder what all those gorgeous girls look like today. Bill Lowry, who was a publisher in Atlanta, when I went to visit him one day, he played me a record, and he said, Ken, he said, Bill and I were very dear friends. Of course, here I forget his name, but we were very dear friends. And he played me this record, and he said, Ken, he said, RCA Victor wants this record. But being that we're good friends, I want you to hear it, so if you want it, if you want the song or the record, you can have it. So I played it, and I said, Bill, do me a favor, will you? Give it to Victor. So I don't know what made me turn the record over, but it was Young Love. And I said, oh, you darn fool, here's your hit. So I took the song and I said, I'm recording Sonny James next week, and I'll record it.
And the rest is history, huh?
Yeah.
It went to #1.
That's right.
Isn't that great? And then you say Sonny had 16?
16 hit records, run 1, 2, 3, 4, right straight.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
And what a nice man he is, too.
Oh yeah.
What a gentleman.
Wonderful guy. The only group that came near was a group called Alabama. But at number 15, they recorded a Christmas record, and that broke the spell. But then they continued on afterwards.
Yeah, I remember Alabama from the 90s. They were a big country group.
Oh yes.
Yes.
If they hadn't have had that Christmas record, they would have beat Sonny, but they didn't.
So he still holds the record to this
Yes.
day. Isn't that something?
Yeah, he's a great, good singer, and I still can't figure out why he isn't in the Country Music Hall of Fame.
Isn't that strange?
Yeah.
With all those hits.
Yeah,
Isn't that something?
yeah. And of course, Merle Haggard is a top artist. He's still.
Oh, yeah.
He's still performing.
And Buck Owens?
Well, Buck isn't performing anymore.
He's not
I don't
performing
think.
anymore?
I don't know. He might be. I've got to call him and find out.
I remember when Buck used to play rhythm guitar on my songs.
Yes.
On my records.
That's right. He used to. That was a funny thing about Buck. He kept bugging me about, Ken, I want to sing. I mean, audition me as a singer. And I said, get away from me, boy, you bother me. Because he was such a great guitar player that,
Yeah.
you know, I just wanted him to play guitar. And one day he said that he was going to go to Columbia Records. And I said I couldn't care less if he went to Columbia Records, because all I was interested in was his guitar playing.
Uh-huh.
So one day I said, oh, okay, after a session, I said, all right, go ahead and sing me a song. Well, he did about 16 bars, and I said, that's enough. And he came in and he thought I had turned him down, but I heard immediately, you know, what he could do.
Uh-huh.
And I signed him, and of course the rest is history.
And he had so many hits.
Oh gosh, yes.
So many hit songs.
And but the other thing about Buck, the Beatles were great fans of Buck.
Oh, really?
Oh gosh, yes. And they used I had to send them a dub of every song that he ever did. I mean, you know, as we recorded them. And then finally, they recorded one of his songs, "Act Naturally." You remember that song?
I remember that song.
Yeah. And then when I went to London to record Buck at the London Palladium, and they were supposed to be there, but they were out on a date and they couldn't make it, but their manager was there. And the other thing, one day they came up to the office and wanted to meet me, and I was out of town, darn it. I wanted to meet them so bad. But so that's it.